Good morning, everybody, from YouTube and Spotify. This is your host, Regan Gorno. Today, my guest is Mark, Sergeant at Arms, Bikers for Trump. Mark, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Padre?
A blessed man. I'm a lucky guy. I have a great life, and I can't really complain, man.
God bless you.
Yeah. Looking at the state of affairs and the way things are going, I'm really glad. I tried to get a hold of you like 3 weeks ago, and we just never connected.
Yeah.
And I'm actually kind of grateful that it took a little bit longer than I would have wanted, because the way things have unfolded in the last like 3 or 4 weeks, it's kind of wild how the world changed.
Big time.
Yeah, man.
Big time. It's a political fireball.
Which is a shame. You would think, unfortunately, I don't know. The world
I
has
don't know,
changed so much, man. It's changed so much. I don't even know how to express the debauchery. It's almost like it's almost surreal.
I have a strong political background. Excuse me. I held public office for 20 years in my community as a township commissioner, as a Democrat. And I also worked as chief of staff for a Democratic state representative in Pennsylvania for several years. And I've been down to D.C. for various things. I've been up to Harrisburg a lot. Strong political background. So I understand politics from the inside out. And it's a bastard game. I don't know how else to say it. It's always been this way, but I've never seen it this bad at the national level. And it's because of Trump, but I support Trump because of who and what he is. Washington, D.C. needed someone like him to shake it up, and he's done that. He has shaken up the political landscape big time, and that's what I appreciate about him.
I think that's what I appreciate about him also. I like the fact that he said it off the cuff, and he would say what he thought was true, and if the chips fell the wrong way, he wasn't really worried about that. He was confident enough in himself that I'm going to tell him, yeah, I bribed you. You guys put this in position so I can bribe you.
He's a typical New Yorker. If you walk into any bar in New York, you'll find him sitting on a bar stool. They're a different brand of people.
Well, I grew up in Connecticut, so I'm right there, right outside of New York.
So
Yeah. But I would have never guessed. I'll be honest with you, I was excited to hear what he had to say, and then when he got in the office, he did exactly what he said he was going to do, and I didn't expect it. There's a point in your life where you kind of lose. I don't want to call it hope, but you succumb to the reality that just because someone says they're going to do something doesn't mean they're actually going to do it.
Well, he did what he said he was going to do. He is the epitome of the bull in the china shop, and that's okay. But, I know from my own experience, when you first get elected to public office, and even at the local level, it took me a good 2 years to get my feet on the ground and understand exactly what was going on. It's a large community I live in, and there's a lot of things that, the average citizen just doesn't understand about the process. So you get a guy like him, who's a great businessman, by the way, and he goes into the highest office in the land. I mean, he was just a lamb into the slaughter as far as I was concerned. He surrounded himself with the wrong people, and he trusted too many people. And it hurt him in the end. So I think he's wised up in that respect anyway. And I truly believe he's going to get a second term. I pay a lot of attention, of course, to what's going on because of the group I'm with, and we obviously support him. And what I'm seeing, it's really interesting, is a lot of the minority communities, especially the black people and Asians, are coming over to him in large groups. I find that surprising, but that's what's happening because I think as a group of people who understand injustice, they see what's happening to him and they don't like it. And I hear a lot of people saying, hey, I didn't vote for this man last time, but I'm going to vote for him this time. A lot of minority people.
Yeah. On that note, I'm under the persuasion that they cheated to make sure he didn't get in that second time. I'm not saying that that's a absolute fact, but the underlining tone of the entire environment for that whole month was overwhelming. We don't even care if you notice. We don't want him in, and we don't care what means it takes to get that accomplished. And that seems self-evident to me personally.
You know, I had an experience with Dominion. I ran for legislator in 2005, and as a Democrat, I'm a Republican now, but as a Democrat, I ran against an incumbent. And so Dominion, it was the first year we had the machines here in Allegheny County, and so the director of elections asked me to come in and watch the count on the machines. So I went in with there were several other people, and we were invited into this room with a bank of computers, and Dominion people in there, and election people in there doing the counts. He said, "Okay, sit here. Your district's coming up. Watch this." So I'm sitting there. Ends up the count is me, 8,200. The incumbent 6,500. I said, "Great, I won." He said, "No, no, 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 no. Here, wait a minute, wait a minute." Well, by the way, him and I never got along. So he said, "No, you wait a minute, wait a minute." So he calls in the director for Dominion, and he said, "Hey, there's something wrong here. Straighten this out." So they talked a little bit, and he sat down at the computer. He said, "Okay, we got it fixed." It was me then 6,500 and the incumbent 8,200. I said, wait a minute, man. I'm not going for this. I got an attorney, and I sat with the attorney, and he said, "You know what? There's hardly anything we can do because there's no paper trail." He said, "We need a paper trail to contest this," and there is no paper trail. All that came out of the machine was like you get at the grocery store after you buy your groceries, and it was just a count. But it didn't give you enough to take to a judge. A judge would have thrown it out. So to this day, so I said, "Can't we go to where they store them at the warehouse?" He said, "No." He said, "You'd have to get a warrant, and they're not going to allow it." He said, "It's done, the done deal." But now, interestingly enough, we're back to paper ballots. We don't use Dominion. We don't use computers anymore here in Allegheny County. We use paper ballots because there were so many complaints like mine that they just threw them out. And this is a Democratic county, by the way.
That's absolutely insane. And the world is changing so fast that we need as much integrity in place, especially in the structure of authority, more than ever before since the beginning of time. Because when those robots roll out and all this stuff goes automated and all these cars start driving themselves, who's going to be in charge of all that stuff? Who's going to decide what is allowed and what's not? And they're already programming the AIs to do certain things with a skewed viewpoint on certain things already.
I think it's just too much, too fast, really.
Well, there's no way of turning it back. There's no undoing the atom bomb. There's no undoing the combustible engine. Once they exist, you can't undo them.
Well, I'll tell you, they need to straighten this situation out with the elections, because if anything's going to tear this country apart, it's going to be that. If people sincerely believe that these elections are being stolen, it's going to tear this place apart. We're severely divided. There's no question. I'm on TikTok a lot, and the left is really crazy. They're really out there. And I don't want to say it's all Democrats, because it's not. There are good moderate Democrats, but it's this extreme left woke group of people that are just out there, and they're ignorant, they're rude, they talk over you, they demean you, they think our knuckles drag on the ground. I mean, it's just crazy. And so on the other side, I've got to know the Proud Boys, and I've got to know other groups, and some of them are extreme. So it's not a good combination. And if they don't straighten this out, with this election coming up in 24, there's going to be problems, I believe.
Oh, I agree. And I go to the grocery store and I stop for a minute, and I've said this several times in my podcast already, and I just observe what's going on in my grocery store in my town. And I see a lot of elderly, a lot of children, a lot of single moms, a lot of people in those carts that drive themselves there where you got to drive around. And I'm like, what would happen if everything fell apart? Because if we did go to war, if there was a war, if we really fought, all the trucks would stop going to the grocery store.
No question.
Yeah.
Should I call you?
What would all these people do?
I don't know. I always said if they closed down the grocery stores, this place would be in bad shape, because people don't know how to survive without it. It's just there are groups out there. I also belong to the 3%ers, and that's what we do. We teach each other how to protect ourselves and how to survive if everything falls apart. The world's not ready for this, and if it happens, it's going to be bad.
Oh, it'd be
There's no
real bad.
question.
And the identity politics that make up the woke movement and the other extreme on the other side, that's how the 20th century fell apart, and we brought a little piece of hell right here on Earth for ourselves. And that wasn't a fun ride for Asia or Eastern Europe.
No, no question. But I'll tell you what, I feel I have some hope. I really do. I have some hope that things may change back in our direction because, like I said, the black people are waking up to it. The Asian people, the Hispanics are waking up to what they're trying to do, and they don't like it. They really when that when Trump was charged in Georgia and mugshotted, that was the end. I think that was the end for a lot of people, and it pissed a lot of people off, quite frankly.
Now,
And
I got a question. I don't watch the news, and I knew it happened because I do see stuff on social media. Was that over like mean tweets? Did he get indicted over mean tweets? Is that what happened? What's his indictment about?
well, they say that he tried to reverse the election. He
Well,
tried to steal the election.
I think almost everybody contests elections, or at least think about it or say it out loud at least once, especially if it's close. Didn't we?
I gotta
Didn't we
tell-
I think we recounted what 4 times in Florida that one year in like the late '90s, early 2000s.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, like I said, I contested an election. You know,
I don't
uh,
see how
yeah,
that's a crime. How is that a crime?
it's not a crime. But when you talk to these liberals, and you know what, I don't know. You're on TikTok. A lot of them, I think, are plants. It seems like they're sitting there with a book in front of them because they're all saying the same thing and they all got the same statistics and they all got the same spiel. It just doesn't seem right to me. It
Well, yeah,
almost
yeah.
seems like
You're not arguing with a person. You're arguing with an ideology. They're just a mouthpiece of that ideology.
yeah.
Whoever's teaching them is getting it from a book or whatever, and everybody's just in line. It's the same
Well,
reason why you're seeing the same message coming out of the networks. They're all saying
the
the
other
same thing because it's all just a mouthpiece for the agenda. It's not even they're
well,
not even individuals.
the biggest problem with it on TikTok is, TikTok is a liberal leaning app. And, you can be banned. I've been banned for 7 days because, I was banned for 7 days, a couple of weeks ago, because I was on live talking and one guy come on and, he just kept talking over me and demeaning me and being rude. And finally I got pissed off and said, hey, why don't you go watch why don't you go watch the girls wiggle around in their negligees for a while and well all of a
That's the
sudden
other half. That's the other half of TikTok. Yeah.
yeah, well all of a sudden the screen went blank and I got a notice you've been banned for violation of blah blah blah. And I said to them, I wrote them back and said, well, wait a minute, you allow a girl to sit on there with a greased up cucumber about to do a deep throat thing, yet you kicked me off for
For
bringing
just
it
telling
up.
just tell this guy to go beat dirt.
Yeah. So, we're up against the wall here as far as social media and the media is concerned, but you just got to keep up the good fight. Now, as far as the election is concerned, I got to tell you, quite frankly, I was a little bit skeptical about Trump's charge that it was, not correct because it was such on a massive scale. I thought, how can they do this? But the more I did research into what happened in Michigan and the more I researched what happened in Georgia, I tell you, I think he's got something. And, Trump's got a strange habit. He says things and people say, wow, what the hell is he talking about? This guy's out there. But yet it comes true over time.
Love it.
You
I
know,
absolutely love it. You kidding me?
yeah. I mean, the guy's smart. He's eccentric. He can be abrasive, but he's a very smart man. You got to give it to him. And I tell you, I honestly think he's going to get elected, and I think it's not going to be by a few votes. I think he's going to get elected by a landslide because this country fed up,
Oh, I
fed
agree.
up.
I agree. And like I said, I don't want to see everything deteriorate down to a fight. Now, I've thought it through. You could make a really good Southern fight again. It's not hard to do, but how many people would suffer? It's a far better
Oh,
strategy to fix what we have
you know
and
what?
tweak it to get it back to normal. Because in my opinion, what I saw when I was a kid, the '80s were the golden era of life. I thought.
Well, yeah, I'm much older than I look, and I grew up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s,
Yeah, I was
and
born in '78, bro. So I don't remember
oh well,
I don't remember
I,
anything before '85.
I was born in 46, so
God bless you. God bless you.
thank you. So, I lived in a world, it was quite different than it is now, quite different. And it's really disappointing. It's really disappointing to see what's going on. But, I just, again, I have faith. I have faith in the American people. I have faith in the system. We just got to work to get it straightened out. And that's why I got involved with Bikers for Trump. When I left public office and I left the state legislature, I changed my party because I saw how the Democrats worked. They never met a tax they didn't like. They were corrupt. They really were corrupt in the Pennsylvania State House, and some of them went to jail over it. And so I got away from the Democratic Party and turned my party back to Republican, where I actually started many years ago as a Republican. And I I saw there was a convention coming up in Cleveland in 15, so I went up. I drove my motorcycle up and I ran into these guys, Bikers for Trump. And they said, "Hey, would you like to join us?" And I talked with them a bit, and I said, "Sure." So I joined up with them, and I've been with them ever since. But we've recruited, and over time, we've recruited thousands of people. Actually, Bikers for Trump is a worldwide organization. We have people in Europe, we have people in South Korea that I know of. It's all over the United States, so we're a big organization. So I've been with them, and I've been active with them, and we've stood up against Antifa, we've stood up against BLM. We don't go out there to look for a fight. We don't go out there to look for trouble. But we're not going to let them tear our statues down. We're not going to let them destroy our heritage and our history. So that's really what happened. So then I became one of the officers by election. There's 6 officers, and I'm one of them. And I've been the sergeant at arms for about 4 years, 5 years now, and I stay active with them. Matter of fact, on September 9th, I'm going down to Kentucky. We're going to have a rally there. One of the guys running for governor is having a big rally, and Trump people's coming in. Trump himself was going to be there, but they're saying now they're not sure because of all his problems. His time's pretty limited. But this is what we do. We went to Gettysburg one time because Antifa said they were going to tear the statues down and deface them. So 900 of us went up there, and we said it ain't going to happen. Well, we chased them out. I've been to Mount Rushmore. They were going to deface Mount Rushmore. We stopped that. This is the kind of things we do. We don't look for trouble, but we don't run away from it. We're just not going to let them destroy our history and our heritage.
Yeah, anybody that wants to do that is trying to rewrite something, and they're trying to
Well,
get an agenda out there that's beyond just the woke movement.
well, they need to go somewhere else and rewrite it because they're not going to do it here.
Yeah, because I don't. Why would you want to fix perfect? You know what I mean? We had this perfect. This was perfect.
People don't understand that. I served in Vietnam in 1966 and 67, and I had the opportunity to go to other places like Japan, the Philippines, Guam, Australia. I got to see what other places in the world are like. And I'm telling you, this is the God's truth. When I came back and I got off my ship, I literally went down the gangplank and kneeled on my knees and I kissed the asphalt. I was so glad to be back in America. There's nothing like America. I don't care what anybody says.
Nothing. Not only is there's nothing like us, but we've exported all of our good ideas to everybody willing, even enemies. The
No
Chinese are
question.
making highway systems far superior to ours because we were kind enough to show them the way to do it. Now, granted, you can argue the Autobahn was the first idea for all that, but we exported all of our good ideas free of charge. We didn't
Well,
put
something else
out. Go ahead.
something else we've done is, and I know it because I have a young Chinese girl living here, and her and I've been friends for many years. I lost my wife about 10 years ago, and I I started to go on these dating sites, and I met this Chinese girl, and she came here from Shanghai, and this was back in I think 2014 or 15. Stayed a little bit, went back. A year later, she come back. She'd been going back and forth, become a good friend of mine, a good friend of my family, and then about a year and a half ago, a little over a year and a half ago, I hadn't heard from her for a long, long time. She finally contacted me, and when I saw her, she was just falling apart. It's a personal story. It was over some guy who had promised to marry her and didn't do it, and so on and so forth. But anyway, I looked at her and I saw she was just deteriorating, and I said to her, "Listen, you need to come here and get out of China for a while because they're going to lock down there." And she said, "I know that." So I bought her an airplane ticket, and she goes to the airport, and she gets stamped through customs and everything, gets her luggage put on the plane. Well, she's walking to the plane, and a Chinese policeman stopped her and said, "Where are you going and why?" And she said, "Well, I'm going to the United States to visit friends." And he said, "No, you're not." He said, "Because we only allow if you're going for business or school." So she turned around to go back. Just something happened. This policeman ran off, so she just got on the plane and left. Well, a month later, her uncle calls her and says, "They're in your apartment and they're destroying it." So the police went into her apartment looking for her, destroyed her apartment, killed her cat. And yeah, I mean, you know, they trashed her place. And I said to her, "You can't go back because they're going to put you away if you do."
Oh yeah,
Well,
yeah,
she
yeah.
knew
Because
that.
they got a social credit score over there, man. Even if you
Oh,
work, they'll take away all your wages. They'll
well,
they'll penalize your niece, your nephew. They'll take them out of college if you don't follow the rules. It's wild what they can do in China, man. They have complete
well,
control.
I didn't mean to get off the story, but, talking about her, but I wanted to talk about China. Being friends with her and some of her friends, I've learned a lot about China. They've taken our money and they've built a beautiful society over there. It's a communist slash capitalist type society where, I mean, as far as infrastructure and cities are concerned, they're eons ahead of us. I mean, human rights, they're terrible, but everything else, Shanghai, New York City is 9 million people. Shanghai is 26 million people. Yet they have almost zero crime. You can walk the streets at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. No one will bother you, woman or man. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. You can eat off the streets. I've seen it. But this is what they've done with our money. Yet here we are. Our infrastructure's falling apart.
Oh, and that's on purpose. Those bridges are 60 years old, and no one's fixing them on purpose.
I live in a city, believe it or not, Pittsburgh has more bridges than any other city in the entire world. So I understand that. Our bridges are terrible here. A lot of them are blocked off where you can only go over half of it. A lot of them you can't go over. And this has been going on for years and years. Yet this guy these liberals keep touting that, oh, he's passed a great infrastructure bill. I haven't seen any of the money hit here yet. And we've got a lot. Like I said, we've got the more bridges than any other city in the world, yet we can't get it fixed. And our transportation system's a joke, a complete joke, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah, you see trains falling off the tracks. It's just wild the way things work out, and I don't think any of it's an accident. I really don't. We have enough money to spend all over the world. We have all this money. Like you said, we owe interest on the money they built their cities on. We owe them for building their cities, which is
I tell you,
a preposterous scenario. How
you
could
got
they
to
be
give.
in a situation like that? Because we had everything 50 years ago. There was nobody that could touch us for 10, 20 miles. We were 3, 4, 5 generations ahead of anybody trying.
Hey, Padre, I'm a Harley Davidson man. I can't tell you how many of my parts, my clothes are made in China. Harley Davidson, right? The American icon of motorcycles, made in China. It's just I mean, you got to give it to them. They outsmarted us. They outsmart. Everything is made in China around here, or overseas. A lot of it, and they took our money, and they built themselves a great society. And so here we are. We're struggling.
Well,
Struggling.
we have a lot going for us. The Chinese have a huge aging population to the point where they're looking at a huge pyramid problem where there's no young people to work and way too many old people that need care. Exponentially more than we have. All those people we've let in from the south border and overseas and stuff, they're normally working age or younger. And they're having more kids.
You speak about the border. This girl now, she has filed for political asylum. Okay. Process is, you're here. You need to file before you're here 1 year. So she filed before that date. The next step is a hearing. That takes 2 to 3 years to get a hearing. You have to hire an attorney. That costs $7,000 for that attorney just to go to the hearing with you, right? You go to the hearing, only 20% get accepted at the hearing. They recommend you go to immigration court, which takes another 4 to 6 years to get into immigration court. And it's $15,000 to have an attorney go represent you there. Yet, you come across the border illegally, they set you down with an attorney, help you fill out the immigration papers, give you $2,500, and send you on your way.
How do they justify that, and why are we all sitting down just taking it?
I don't get it.
I'll be honest with you, I'm going to go full circle. If they cheated on the last election, they did it in plain sight, and I don't see any reason why they wouldn't do it again. What's the consequence? There was no consequence the first time. There's no consequence for all the money we're giving away to people that are coming over the border. Why would you stop? If I don't punch you in the face for sleeping with my wife, why would you stop sleeping with my wife?
I get it.
I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I mean, if they cheated, and it's all presumption, why wouldn't they do it again? What was the consequence for doing it the first time?
Well, speaking of that, that's January 6th. So we get a call. Our president, who lives in Milton, Florida, gets a call from the Trump people. And Trump said, please come down to Washington, D.C., and we want to protest this crooked election, but we want to do it peacefully. He specified peacefully. Okay, so we went there. When we went there for 2 reasons. We went there to protest. We went there, we were going to form with another group a citizens grand jury, which you can do under the Constitution. And we were going to have that grand jury sit and subpoena in congressmen, directors of elections in various places, and we were going to depose them and find out what the truth was. Well, it all fell apart because of what happened. You got a couple 100,000 people there, and you got a few bad apples, I think like 50 or 60 people that tore the place up and ruined everything. So we just left. We never approached the Capitol building. We never approached the barricades or the police. We support the police. We don't fight them. So we left. But that's what happened on January 6th. Now think about it. If it happens again, and people truly believe that the election was stolen, they're going to go there and they're going to be angry, very angry. We didn't go there angry. But if they do it again, a lot of people are going to go there angry. It's not going to be nice. So I hope they wised up. Who knows?
I don't know. I personally don't know how it's going to play out. But even the guy opposing Trump there, that pharmaceutical guy that looks like he's Indian.
Ramaswamy.
Yeah. He almost looks like a plant. It almost looks like it's already staged to be like a debacle.
Who knows?
Right? I mean, does it not look like it's already getting staged to be a debacle? This guy says everything you want to hear. But you know he's part of the deep state. You know for a fact he's part of the deep state.
Well, he's just a little bit too intelligent and too well versed, isn't he?
Yeah, it seems so like forced.
But I tell you, are you aware of what Representative Matt Gaetz is trying to do?
I have no idea who that is.
Representative Matt Gaetz is a congressman out of the Panhandle of Florida, and he's a pretty intelligent guy. He said, I saw him on TV talking about this. He said that he would like to bring Trump in under the Whistleblower Protection Act before a committee of Congress and give him immunity. And he said the possibility is that if he does that, then Trump would have immunity from all four charges, all four indictments. Now, I haven't heard anything since then, but he's brought this up. It's intriguing. So I'd like to see where he's going to go with this, because
Well,
if
once
he
you have indictments and once you have like immunity, then there's certain things you can't talk about. Can you imagine him being on a campaign trail and half of what he wants to talk about, he has to self-censor?
well,
He wouldn't be Donald Trump anymore.
true, but what Gates said was that on a lot of the issues he could just plead the fifth.
Oh yeah, no, I
Under
understand that, but what I'm saying is the reason why he's so organic and it's so honest, it's so raw, it's so real, and it draws a lot of attention, and it's guaranteed to get on the TV because you just don't know when he's going to say something wild, is because he doesn't hold back at all. Even if he goes, even if he gets it wrong, it is far better for him to tell the truth and say what he thinks and just plow through any mistake and work out the kinks later. That if he was a self-censor in any way, I think it would ruin it.
Well, he doesn't do political speak.
Yeah,
He'll lay it out there for you.
It's great, yeah, and I love it.
That's what people like about
it. It speaks to you like that song, that new song that came out like 2 weeks ago there, that just like hit home with everybody.
Yes.
There's something about when you just say it and you mean it, and who cares if they like it or not.
Do you spend a lot of time on social media like TikTok and so on?
I'm going to say I average about an hour a day looking for someone like you.
You know, I spend a lot of time on there, more than I should actually. And again, you know, I watch the black community on there, and they are really pissed off at what's been done to Trump, and it amazes me because, you know, if you look at statistics, it was the black community that had the least amount of support for Trump, and that's why. And the Democrats knew this. And that's why they keep playing to the minorities. And it's changing, though. It's changing big time. If you spend a little time and go through the little clips, the film clips that they make, you'll find a large number of minority people talking about, hey, I didn't support this man, but I really don't like what they did to him. So I'm changing my vote, and I'm voting for Trump this time. And they're talking about not just one or two people. They're talking about their neighborhood.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it. Because one of the things that happens with the minority groups, especially the black community and stuff, is they're heavily reliant on hope. It's one of the reasons why the Democratic Party keeps stringing them along, is they're hoping for a better future. They're still looking at the past, and they're really stuck there and stuff. And Donald Trump said, you know, I'm not going to cater to that. I'm just going to help you, and we're just going to get past this. And the Democratic Party doesn't want to get past anything. They want to leave that carrot of hope dangling in front of them so they can't reach it forever. It looks self-evident to me that that's where their strategy lies with the minority vote.
Well, yeah, and also they have, you know, this indicting Trump piqued their interest. And some of them started to look into Biden's background and his bigoted remarks that he made over the years. And they started to look into Trump and what Trump actually did for black people who were in prison with excessive sentences. He had them released. There's an act, I can't remember the name of it, but he did that. And he's done a lot to try to help black people get into business. And they're looking at this and they're saying, wait a minute here, man. You know, they're tired of being played. They're just tired of being played.
No one wants to get played. There's nobody on earth that wants to get played, and especially if it happens more than once. So I got a question. We brought up Joe Biden. Is he the most elected man in the free world? More than Barack Obama, more than Ronald Reagan? Is that real? Do I have to accept that as a fact?
Can you say term limits?
Well, all I'm saying is, do I have to accept that as an absolute fact, and I'm not allowed to debate that validity of that reality? The most elected man in the world, free world.
I think he came into the U.S. Senate when he was pretty young. You know, I met him. I forgot to tell you, I met him years ago when I was a Democrat. He came into town for a fundraiser for our county treasurer, and And the county treasurer and I are friends, and he said, "Come on, Don." He said, "I got this senator coming in, Biden." He said, "I think he's going to move on to maybe the White House or vice president." This was about 3 or 4 years, about 3 years before he actually ran with Obama. And so I went to the dinner, and I sat at the table with Biden and the treasurer and so on, and I had a long conversation with Biden. And you're right, he's been in politics for a long time. I was running at the time for county council, and he said, "You know what, Mark?" He said, "I was the county councilman." He said, "That's how I got started in politics." So he's got a long, long history of holding public office, probably since his early 20s, I would say.
Mark, that is wild to know that
Yeah.
this guy has been doing it his entire life. And how many times did he run for president? I think he ran 3 times.
Yeah. And got nowhere.
Got nowhere. I mean, he was a laughing stock. I mean, it was insulting that he even tried the second time.
How do you get a guy that doesn't leave the basement, that is in the early stages of dementia, obviously, who has problems physically, yet he beats Trump by what? I mean,
Broke every record humanly possible.
Yeah.
Without even
Yeah,
trying. Without even trying.
just don't even ring true, does it?
Well, here's the deal. They want me to believe that unconditionally. Do I have to believe that unconditionally?
Yes, and I have some land in the Everglades I want to sell you. Cheap.
Oh, it's exhausting. It's so exhausting. And I think what they did was they berated us with just complete nonsense to the
I
point
told you.
where you can't even have a conversation and take it seriously. And I mean, I'm laughing. My face almost hurts just thinking about this clown. Got
I'll
more
tell
than-
you, they really think our knuckles drag on the ground. Trust me.
So my question to you is, if they did do it, why not do it again? There was no ramification. There was no consequence. There was no
Well-
slap on the wrist. There was nothing. I would say actually it was a net gain, and they proved that most people will just go back to work, because as long as my TV works, as long as my phone works, I got enough money in the bank to pay my bills and feed my family.
Well,
I'll let you cheat,
here's
steal,
the thing.
lie, and everything.
Here's a couple points. One, they know they're going to be watched more this time, so they're going to have to change their modus operandi. And two, the economy is so bad, no matter what the left tries to tell you.
I think that's why that other guy's in there, that Republican that's giving you all the right answers. That's a pharmaceutical guy. I think that's why he's there to fill that gap that you're talking about right now.
So the economy,
Yes.
interesting fact. I was having a conversation yesterday with one of these left-wing know-it-alls yesterday about it. And of course, he said everything's fine. I mean, jobs are up, and look at the stock market. Well, I have a 457. I look at it every day. It's not up. It all started in my mind with when Biden made it clear that he was going to squeeze the oil industry. And so, oil doesn't just make gasoline. Oil makes a lot of things. But the first thing it hit was the transportation industry. I got a brother who drives 18-wheelers. He said he used to fill his tank up for like $300-400. Now it's sometimes over $1,000 to fill the tank up. So where's that cost got to be? It's sent on to us. Oils in plastics. It's in foods. It's in everything.
It's in the roads.
Yes. So
It's everywhere. It's absolutely intertwined with everything we do.
that jacked the economy up. There's no question. Yet they don't want to admit it. They keep saying everything's wonderful. It's not wonderful.
Well, okay. This is where rubber meets the road for me. If you keep telling lies and no one calls you on it, say you're having a conversation with someone you know lies all the time, and you don't call them on that in the middle of the conversation when it actually happens and it's obvious, you're literally eating away at yourself a little bit, not just that person, by letting them lie like that.
Well,
And if they cheated, if they're lying, if they're not telling the truth, and all of a sudden no one knows what bathroom to use, and we're just having this conundrum of a plethora of conundrums over and over again in our lives to the point where kids don't know anything but woke.
Well, it's a difficult situation because at least in these apps where you want to talk to these people, because they will talk over you. They won't let you. They try to not let you get a word in.
Because they're a
You've got to.
mouthpiece. They're a mouthpiece for that ideology.
There's
And
no
here's the
question.
deal: if I'm gonna fight you, I don't even want you to be able to speak your side. So that way, I dominate you and I win the war before the war starts. You don't even
There's
have a
no
right.
question.
You don't have a right to your opinion. You don't have a right to speak. You don't have a right to express your side of the story because your side is supposed to lose.
They have an agenda. There's no question. And they all seem to be on the same page. That's what's interesting to me. So, like I said, I kind of think that some of these people in TikTok, especially, are plants, and they get their information at night, and they have their little meetings. They all go over it because they all talk the same thing. They
I
all give you the.
I notice another thing too is if a liberal woke person makes a mistake and they have to pay the consequence, everybody in the woke community will pick them up and get them another job and find a way to protect them and their family immediately. They stick together like ants,
No question.
no matter what. Whereas the individual on the other side, if he falters for telling the truth, everybody just lets him fall and lets him pick himself back up.
But not only that, if you try to fight back, especially on TikTok, you'll get yourself banned for several days or whatever. I mean, I talked to people on there who have made I don't know how many different identities to come back on because they just permanently banned
Yeah.
because they get so tired of these people's crap. They want to fight back. Yet when you fight back, they report you. They report you, and it's not. I don't even think it's investigated. They just ban you. You know.
Well, there's some algorithms that are just built in.
I understand that much.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you say certain things that they don't want you to say, there's no need for anybody to check. The machine will just do it for them.
Yeah. If you say death instead of unalive.
I think Elon Musk. Oh yeah. I think Elon Musk exposed that like 3 or 4 times in the code on Twitter.
Isn't it interesting how he's a bad guy all of a sudden, huh?
Isn't that wild? I was like,
Yeah.
look at this. This guy was the golden child of California with the greatest idea on the planet, shooting electric cars into outer space with Russian rockets and doing all this wild stuff. And all of a sudden, oh, he's a bad guy. And nothing he says matters anymore.
Well, because woke used to run Twitter, they don't run Twitter anymore. So now he's the bad guy.
It's wild.
And that's
absolutely
that's
wild.
the same thing we're dealing with on TikTok. There's no question.
And it's a shame, too, because the true tenet of reality is that we work out truth. Do you know what I'm saying? You
Yes.
get to say your side, I get to say my side, and the civil discourse is in place so that we don't have to go to war, because that's the next level. And I think that's one of the reasons why, like in the 20th century, you saw the mouthpieces just say what they were allowed to say, and everybody else was stifled. We're going down that exact same route. It's almost as if we're repeating history. And we're in like a small cycle. We're not even in a big cycle. It's like that was only 80, 100 years ago.
Well, a lot of people I talk to on the conservative side are concerned that if and when Trump wins, that there's going to be fire in the streets again. Well, we'll just have to deal with it.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I'm looking at that too, because now that we get to look back at it, because it's been a while now, it seems like a lot of the BML and a lot of the Antifa stuff, the reason why they burnt down that section of the city was so they could rebuild it up. Get everybody out of there. Now the liberals own that section. All the wealthy liberals own that area, and they can rebuild it the way they want and have complete control over it. And as they push everybody into Florida and they push everybody into Texas and they push everybody down south, they're literally taking over all the valuable real estate on purpose.
Well, like the man said in that song, not in a small town, I got to tell you, you're going to get away with that stuff in the inner city, but you're not going to get away with it out here. You're just not.
Well,
people are prepared.
Well, here's the deal. If you look back at what the Russians did when they started having a famine, they didn't care about the rural areas. Actually, what they did was they consolidated power in the major cities, went out into the country, and took everything. If you saved jars and canned food, they took it. If you had a carrot in the garden and it was half grown, they took it. You had a cat that you might eat, they took it. And they took everything. And Ukraine was a disaster. The breadbasket of the world got to the point where I think the Russians had banners that translated into English, roughly speaking, it's still not okay to eat your children.
Wow.
That literally happened in history in the Ukraine 100 years ago, based solely on what we're trying to do here now.
I tell you again, I have hope. I just don't think they're going to get away with it.
Well, that's my point. You know how many times as a kid you smoke a little weed and you talk about the government's never going to let us smoke weed because of this conspiracy, that's conspiracy, or you have another conversation about the government doesn't do this or whatever it be, and then no one ever comes up with a solution. I think there's a solution. I think there's a solution to all of this. The key to all of this, the people that keep the lines working on the telephone poles, the guys that keep the sewers running in the sewers, the guys that keep the cars running, the guys that have to go to war, they're all 18 to 28. They're the key to everything. If you can't get them to shut up, sit down, and be quiet, then you can't control anything. They're the key to everything.
Yes, sure. And
what they've done for the last 30 years, it looks to me, is they've weakened that demographic at the fastest rate humanly possible. Smoke weed, play video games, jerk off, and sit in your mom's basement. Shut up, because you are the problem, is what we told young men for the last 30 years.
I saw all this coming in the 60s, that far back. Things were changing. Ideologies were changing. A lot of things changed. There were some good things that happened, the civil rights and so on. But that war, the Vietnam War, was the start of it. It really, you know and I know, we didn't need to be there. That really was the start of it. I went to Woodstock, by the way. I was home from Vietnam maybe about not even a year. And a friend called me up and said, hey, there's a jazz festival in New York. Let's go stay for 3 days. Ended up being Woodstock. So I saw the change in society. Yet today, they're all my age, these people. But the younger generation you're talking about is completely different. Completely different. I don't know. They just buy into all this crap. And it's unfortunate.
Well, here's the deal. I can struggle against society on top of all the other things that make it difficult to be a man. Or I could just give up and play video games. Especially
Why go to work?
Especially if there's free food and my aunt is willing to keep me at the house because she's bored anyways. Or my mom's all by herself, so she's bored anyways. Or grandma is all by herself and she's bored anyways. Why not keep your grandson, your niece, your nephew in the spare bedroom? COVID actually facilitated that grouping up again and pushing everybody together again.
How many people do you know that have children that are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s that are still living at home?
It's unbelievable. I've got 6 kids. I've got a big stake in this working because how do I protect 6 kids from a hell? What do I do? I'm right outside a major city in Texas. There's nowhere to go but, 1,000 miles north maybe? Go to Montana? Take your chances out there? I don't know. But if things completely collapse, I can't protect 6 kids. Some of them are really young.
Well, I'm fortunate. I have 4 boys. They're all grown. They're all married. They're all successful. They're all doing great. But I have a large family. I have 3 brothers, 3 sisters, more nieces and nephews than I can remember. And some of these nieces and nephews are still living at home. Yeah. And they're grown up. They're grown men and women. And
well, I don't mind women staying home in their 20s. I don't see that as a problem for me personally. It's the men that need to go on the adventure.
I don't know. My generation, I left home at 17.
Yeah, I did too. I was out 16, 17. I was done. Yeah, I was on my own.
And I was working somewhere else in another state, you know.
Yeah, but again, we're men. Women, I don't mind women. I got a daughter. She's 20. I don't mind her still being home. I think that's a far better strategy than, do you really? And I think society's actually telling women to act like dudes now. And I don't think that's good for women. I don't think that's really good. Because the moment you're the dude, how the hell am I going to outdude you and marry you? You know, you just
I don't know.
you up the game to the point where I can't, which again makes young men say, fuck it, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to strive. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to outdo a dude chick. I might as well just give up and play video games.
I hate to tell you, I'm kind of glad I'm long in the tooth. Really, I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to be 19 and 20 years old today. I really
It
wouldn't.
sounds really tough. It does not sound like.
Yeah.
Well, okay. It's almost as if we have it too good. Because if you think about it, for 6,000 years, we hardly survived every winter. We hardly made it in those straw huts. We hardly made it in the rock castles. Everybody struggled. It wasn't like men were oppressors because you're living on like $4 a year. Everybody's starving. So men and women work together just to keep the tigers away from the house and the evil guys that would come and steal whatever you had left. And there was no TV, so you're stuck in a house with a Christmas tree. And it was a miserable life for thousands of years. And I wonder if we have no respect for those ancestors that just scraped by for us.
I tell you, I grew up in a different generation. I come from a big family. My father was a construction worker. There were a lot of times we were, trying to remember how to figure out how to get something to eat. I mean, it was difficult at times. It really was. We traveled. My father traveled all over the country to work, and he never owned a home. He always rented because he was trying to feed 7 kids and trying to make a living in the construction industry. It just didn't work. But today they don't want to go to work. They want to work from home. It's amazing to me. Amazing.
Yeah, which is it's a crazy world. But even the telephone poles behind me on the street, most of those telephone poles, the first ones put in, were put there by men that aren't even alive anymore.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I fear that those that should be thankful for what we have are least thankful for the men that do it.
Well,
The gratitude is definitely lacking.
life don't owe you anything. You have to earn it, as far as I'm concerned. So they're going to learn the hard way.
Yes, well, that's my point, and I'm at this crossroads. Do I sell my house and go to Costa Rica? I got enough equity. Do I just abandon ship and give up? Do I fight?
Well, I'll tell you what. Speaking of that, I'm out on my bike, and when I wear my Trump stuff, everybody wants to talk to me. They want, and it's mostly cordial. But I ran into a guy the other day, and he said to me, "You're a Trump supporter, huh?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Man, I'll tell you what." He said, "I'm of Polish heritage," and he said, "Me and my wife." He was an older man. He said, "Me and my wife are moving back to Poland." He said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm third generation here." He said, "But we're going back to Poland."
The whole world just flipped upside down.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you, didn't Donald Trump say that was like the epicenter of strong family values over there?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they are.
So he said if you're not Polish, they won't allow you to come and get citizenship. He said, but we are. He said we have me and my wife both have Polish heritage, so we're going back to Poland. But after my wife died, my father was Italian, my mother was English, and most of the rest of Europe all mixed up. But I thought about going back to Italy. I was really thinking about going back to Italy, and I got a good friend who owns a restaurant here, and he was lining me up with realtors over there. I was going to buy a place and go back to Italy because I got so disgusted with what was going on here,
I agree, and I have thought about it, and I've entertained it a little bit. But the reality is, do you believe that this is the last human freedom? Is this the last light that's lit in the world that holds the candle still working? Is Europe really better off than we are? And can they toe the line if we fall?
I really think that we're that shining light on the hill that they talk about in Revelations in the Bible.
Yeah, because do you think South America would be able to toe the line if we failed? Do you think Canada would toe the line, or Mexico could toe the line, or do you think Italy can toe the line? If we completely collapsed and the void of America was completely empty, would there be someone to toe the line, or would everybody just give up?
Hard to say.
I don't know. So my point is, I got the kids. I see that 18 to 28 is the key. and I want to solve the problem and not run away.
Well, all we can do is do our little piece. I mean, I try, you're trying, obviously.
Oh, I'm trying with all my heart, man.
And so all we can do is keep trying. But again, I have hope. I'm starting to get hope. For a while there, for actually years, I thought there is no hope. It's just this country's going to hell. But I'm beginning to get hope, because what's giving me hope are the minorities. The Hispanics and the blacks are starting to realize that they've been bullshitted for years. And they're not going to stand for it anymore. That gives me hope, because we need to stick together, and we need to do it together. And so I have some hope. I'm hoping that things will change.
Well,
for the
me
better.
too, and that was my point. Is I think there's a huge opportunity out there for young men to band together, and maybe even get apartments together and try to almost hoard your money and try to see if you can collect a little bit of wealth and see if you can get ahead, instead of just focusing on yourself, but try to do something for the greater good.
I'm lucky. My kids are grown. They're older than your children, and they're all married. They all have children. They all have good jobs or careers, and they're doing well. And thank God. But I don't know about today. I don't know what the situation would be if they were just coming out of college again and trying to make it. I don't know.
Time will tell, and we will find out in the next couple cycles of the politics there, because I don't think we have that many more elections before. I really think the technology that's coming out as fast as it's coming out is going to be a whirlwind of change, greater than the atomic bomb and all that stuff, because it's moving. You've been alive since we went from the airplane to the moon. What did it take? It took, 75 years to go from walking, airplane, moon. 75 years? The last 75 years, we've seen exponential change, and it seems like not only is it moving faster, but as it moves faster, it moves faster. Like a snowball rolling downhill, just getting bigger. It just keeps collecting more stuff. And I really think that we're going to see a lot of this self-driving stuff and the robots walking around as a revolution, bigger socially, because once they get that social credit score and that digital coin all in place, they're going to have unlimited control over society. So much control. They're going to have so much control. I think it'll revolutionize more than the car, the plane, or the bomb, or any of that stuff, because that stuff wasn't as social as what we're looking at now.
No question, technology is moving at a fever pitch, but what's the end result going to be? The question.
1984. It'll be in 1984. We already. I read that book, and that's already. It's almost. I wonder if it is. I don't think we're anywhere near the end times. Everybody seems to think we are. I don't think we are.
I don't think we are either. I mean, and the question is, who controls all this? Is it the government?
Yes.
Is it large corporations? Who is it that controls all this?
Well, at the beginning, it's probably going to be like a Wild Wild West, kind of like in the 1800s when they had the Pinkerton group, where they were like a self-made military, and the government had a military, and private institutions had military, and there was kind of like this wild, unruly beginning. As I buy a robot, and you buy a robot, and he buys a self-driving car, and it makes him $100,000 a year by doing Uber all day. We're going to eventually consolidate into bigger corporations, but initially, I think it's just going to be wild.
Well, again, like I said, I don't have a whole lot of years to worry about it. I feel sorry for the younger generation. I really do, because they're the ones that got to deal with it.
Yeah. And just like the plane, no matter what you do, you'll never undo the nuclear bomb. You'll just never be able to undo it. You could try all you want. You can write these treaties that say we're going to stop the proliferation, or we're going to downsize our military, or whatever it is. But that box is open. It's over. And computers are here to stay. They're not going anywhere. It's never not going to be a part of life anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I had a business, and I had to bone up on how to run computers and use apps for my finances and stuff, and it was good, but I had to learn it, because we weren't taught that in school. We were taught how to use a typewriter.
Yeah, I had a typewriter. Yeah.
Yeah, we were taught how to write a check and use a typewriter and cook a meal in classes, but
I told
that
my
was it
kids,
for
I
us.
told my kids that before the computers, we used to have this like 40-pound machine that you put a 3 pieces of paper on, you put your credit card on it, and you struck it with this huge, like, rolling press. That
I
would,
still have that machine from
hey,
my
my kids
business.
didn't even know it existed. They didn't
Yeah,
even know it existed.
I still have that. So when I had a customer, I'd take their credit card and run it through the machine put the paper down with 3 sheets, like you say,
Yeah.
put the credit card down. I still have that. But then again, when I was in business, then along came the technology to do it electronically, which was much better. I just put the credit card numbers in a machine and it went to the bank and you
Yeah,
know.
but I don't like the credit cards because here's the deal, right? There's you use your debit card and I pay you $100 for your jacket, and I do it digitally. Well, the bank takes 3% or 1.5% every time you swipe that card, right? So that's not a hundred.
Absolutely.
That's not $100 bill anymore. Then you go
Right.
buy a sandwich and you go do your dry cleaning and you go get a new hat and you put some gas in your car, and each time it was 3% again. How much
How
of that?
often
How much of that $100 exists anymore in the personal hand and not back in the banks?
how often do you use cash anymore?
I barely ever do, man.
I'll take $100 out of the Mac machine. It'll last me for a long, long time because I don't use it. You know?
Yeah, you know what? Maybe I am part of the problem. I need to start taking $100 out, live on that $100, and then go take another $100 out again.
But it's a lot lazier and easier just to
It
stick that
is,
card
man.
in
It
the machine.
is.
You know.
And the self discipline. I get up early and I run 5 miles, and it changed my life because I'm so more disciplined with my mental capacity. But I find there's little nuances, and I'm gonna have to write this down, and I'm gonna have to make a challenge out of this and see if I can do that. Start using cash more often, because at least that cash stays $100 until it gets back to the bank.
Yeah, yeah. Most people don't realize that with the credit cards.
Yeah.
The podcasts that do you do them daily?
I was doing them sometimes twice a day. Now I'm trying to do them like once a week.
And where are they broadcast out to? I'm just curious.
So I started off in Spotify. Then as soon as I could, I started putting them on YouTube. So you can find them on Spotify and YouTube.
Oh, okay. So you record these and then send them out.
Yes, and I will tell you when I'm done, and I'll send you a link to the YouTube and the Spotify.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see it. I call you Padre. Is that correct?
That's fine, man. My first name is Regan. Regan.
Regan. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Well, hey, listen, it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah, man.
I
Mark, I thank you for your time.
Yes, and again, keep in touch, and we'll keep our fingers crossed and keep working, brother.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I love seeing older gentlemen out there in the front lines messing around with TikTok and YouTube and Facebook and everything. Because I'm telling you right now, they need to tip the hat to anybody older to them and realize that we've got it really good, and that the guys that came before us, they have something to say. And not only they have something to say, but they're the reason why we have it so good.
Well, I tell you what I've done. I had a jewelry company, and when I traveled with it, of course, I had to carry a weapon, and yet I wasn't allowed to carry a weapon across state lines. But I did because I carried such large sums of jewelry that if I'd have got robbed, I'd have lost everything, my home, everything. But then after I retired, I started to. My brother's a gun enthusiast, and he got me into it. So I, I'm armed, I'm trained, and I'm insured. And that's the thing. I recommend to people, don't just buy a gun and put it on your hip. You're making a terrible mistake. If you're going to buy a gun and put it on your hip, you better get trained and you better get yourself insured. I belong to a group called the USCCA. It's the United Concealed Carry Association, where if God forbid, if I ever had to use it, I have a little card. I call the number. I get an attorney right away. And that attorney, the first thing they tell you is, don't talk to the police. I'll talk to the police, because everything you say, that policeman has to write that down, and he has to give that to the district attorney, and that district attorney makes a decision whether to charge you or not. And so you need to be trained and know what to do. And one of the things that I've learned through the training is and most of the training tells you, do not pull that weapon or even show it unless you absolutely know that your life's in danger, even in your home. Because if you do, I mean, if a guy comes in your home and turns his back and is running out, you can't shoot him. Because if you do, you're in trouble.
Oh, no, you can in Texas.
Really?
Oh, yes, you can. And you can chase him
Not
down the
here.
street. Not only can you chase him down the street, once he presents himself as an aggressor, and that you've established that you may be in jeopardy in your life or property, or your neighbor's property may be in jeopardy, you're allowed to chase him.
You're in Texas.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
in Pennsylvania.
Yes, sir. It's a big difference.
I'm in Pennsylvania, which is kind of a purple state. And we have something called the Castle Doctrine now, where if you come in my driveway or I have 5 acres, I got a large plot of land. If you come on my land and you threaten my life, I can kill you. I can shoot you. But if you turn around to leave, then I can't shoot you. You have to be facing me, and I have to know for certain that my life is in danger. Or I can't use my weapon.
Yeah, when I was in Connecticut and Massachusetts, not only did they not want you to shoot anybody that wasn't immediately, you had to prove that you tried to get out the window before you shot.
You know, interestingly enough, I've been armed for a good while now. About 6-7 months ago, I was on my motorcycle and I was going to a mailbox to mail a letter. And so I stopped and put the motorcycle on its kickstand, and I didn't shut it off. And I walked over to the mailbox, and I was just putting the letter in the mailbox, and I looked to my left. I seen this big, tall, young black guy coming, and he was coming at a fever clip right towards me. I think what he was going to do was cold cock me, jump on my bike, and take off. Well, I knew it was happening, so I reached over and I picked my shirt up and I exposed my 9mm. He did a 90. He did a 90 and took off. He was good. He was after me. There's no question. So it pays to be armed, I think, but you have to know the law, and you better study the law, and you better get trained, because you could get yourself in big, big trouble just by sticking a gun on your hip, you know?
Oh, I agree. I'll be honest with you, being from New England, I don't even carry my guns, even though I'm allowed to in Texas. There's very little laws here that stifle your right to defend yourself.
I never leave home without it.
Really?
And it never leaves.
I got all my kids with me, and I don't ever carry it. You're allowed to keep it in your car without a permit. I don't do that either. You're allowed to conceal carry. You're allowed to open carry without any license. I don't do that either. It feels weird to have it on me all the time. And like you said, once it's on you, you've got two options: fist fight or fight to the death with a gun. And I'm not saying I'm a machine, but I can hold my own.
Well, here I am. I'm 77 years old.
Makes a difference. Yeah.
You know, I don't want to get into a fist fight with anybody, because I'm going to get some bones broken. They're going to be mine. So and that gives me an advantage with the weapon too, because if a young person's got me on the ground and beat me up, I can shoot them.
Oh, of course. Shit, yeah. Well, I don't even care if you get in trouble. At this point, who the hell is? Yeah, you're fine. You got someone on you. You take care of business. Come on, man. You got people that care about you. It is your duty to keep yourself alive.
The first thing they teach you, and they repeat it over and over and over again: do not even expose that weapon unless you know your life's in danger. So that's something that I'd like to get out to people. If you want to carry, but get yourself trained and know what you're doing and know the laws. Because I tell you, you can lose everything you have. If you pull that weapon and hurt somebody, you can lose everything you have. So you better know what you're doing.
Oh, I agree. And it's a small price to pay to spend, 1 day in that class? Some of those classes are 2 days. And what are they, $100?
Well, they are.
That's totally reasonable. That's not asking too much. And then, like you said, once you take that class, those places that'll insure you will insure you.
Well, the USCCA periodically holds classes all around the country, and they're always every several months in your area. You go to the classes, but I go out to the range too. I go to the range and I practice, and but be aware of the laws, because you can really get yourself in trouble. There's no question.
Yeah, and we don't need any good guys getting in trouble.
Well, brother, again, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, man, Mark, I really appreciate it. This turned out exactly as I was hoping it would. and I learned so much more than I expected.
Go Donald Trump.
There you go, man. What, 2024?
Take care, brother. God bless
All right,
you and your
Mark.
family.
Thank you again, and I'll let you know when this is published.
Thank you, brother. Take care.
All right, man.